That's the caliber of women I pick up. Borderline dwarfs who love Coke.
Well, welcome to the Let's Talk Films podcast, where we talk all things film and television. This week we're talking Star Trek because, you know, the new Star Trek film's coming out next week.
Love some Star Trek.
We're going to be talking about that then, but this week we're talking about the J.J. Abrams Star Treks and maybe the ones before it too, because who knows, we're just going to go off on tangents probably, because that's all that happens in this podcast. This week, Iwan, Lewys and Brandon are not here because they've all gone away and they've left me. So I've drafted in my good friend and co-host of my radio show on Calon FM. It's Mr. Daniel Ellis.
Oh, hello. How's it going? I've got enough fun to make up for 3 people, so it's all right.
How you doing, Dan?
I'm doing pretty good.
Yeah.
How are you?
I'm good. I'm a bit sad that everyone's abandoned me, but you know.
I'm a bit sad that we're doing this like in the afternoon, because if we were doing it at night, I would absolutely be drinking alcohol. But I feel a bit pathetic drinking, so early in the afternoon. Not that I haven't before, but I feel bad doing it now.
Well, that's a fun story there, Dan.
That is a fun story. Join in next week and we'll go deeper into my crippling alcohol addiction.
Yeah, so you're going to be back next week, and it will be in the evening next week.
I will be drinking next week. I will absolutely get a couple down. Get
That's
more
great.
drunk, and I'm kind of hoping that when we do see Star Trek, I'm hoping that it's bad. Like, I hope it's good, because obviously I want to enjoy it.
I hope it's really good,
But
because I actually like the
I hope
Abrams
it's
films.
bad, because I want to be able to drink and get louder and more angry as I go on.
Well, I hope it's good.
I hope it's both.
I hope it's good because it's one of the main things is on a very sad note, it's Anton Yelchin's last ever role.
Yeah, very upsetting.
And he's a terrific actor. I watched him in Green Room a few weeks ago. Really good film. He's really good. And to segue us into the news, his role will not be recast in Star Trek 4.
Which I'm very happy about. I've also heard that he plays quite a large role in Beyond, because he was...
I've heard it's larger than in the previous films.
Not a minor character, but he wasn't an important character by any means.
No,
in the previous films.
I rewatched the first one of the Abrams trilogy.
Yeah.
Of the Abrams films, like a couple of days ago, and he's good in it, but like he really doesn't do much.
Yeah.
He's basically there to teleport people out of situations
Yeah.
until Scotty shows up.
That's basically it.
That's like his whole reason. But yeah, apparently in this film he plays a larger part than
Which
he
would be
has
nice to
before.
see. I think it'll be like a nice send off, a nice goodbye kind of thing, you know.
Yeah. It will be a nice way for
And
him.
I am glad that they're not recasting it, because I can't think of a film where recasting has kind of worked.
No.
Like, the most glaring one to me is always, and I love these films, and it's a bizarre segue. I mean, I guess it's sci-fi. Back to the Future, where they recast Marty's girlfriend, didn't they?
Well, they recast like loads of people in those films.
They did recast a lot.
Who played his dad in the first one?
I don't remember his name,
Because he's insane.
but he starred in the first one because no one thought the first one was going to go anywhere.
Yeah.
Even though they had the sequel hook or whatever. First one, massive success, really popular, because hey, it's a great film. For the second one, he's like, I want a couple $1 million.
Yeah.
And this is like in the 80s, so a couple million was like, it was a lot.
Yeah.
So they're like, well, you know what, we're not going to recast you. So that's why, if you've ever wondered why at the start of Back to the Future 2, it redoes the end of Back to the Future 1 and reintroduces like Marty's girlfriend and Marty's dad, because they're all different actors.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
it's
but they like put a load of makeup on the guy who
Yeah.
played his dad, and the original actor sued them for using his likeness.
Yeah,
it's fine.
but he was a jerk.
Have you seen him on? I think it might have been like David Letterman or something.
Yeah,
he's insane. Like, he's so high on that, and he's just like he's trying to kick David Letterman in the face. People need to watch that because it's so weird.
I always think, again, I love Back to the Future films. Probably my favorite trilogy.
Yeah.
He is a little too good at being the the creepy, peeping Tom, weirdo nerd kind of thing. Like, he's a little too good, if you get what I mean. Like, I don't know, he gets a bit too into it. He's like climbing up in the tree and looking through the binoculars. He's a bit too good at it. What a bizarre segue though from Star Trek.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess they're both sci-fi. I watched Back to the Future Part 3 again the other day.
Oh, it was on telly.
Yeah,
I watched it.
So I watched it again because I enjoy it.
I don't like Star Trek. Not Star Trek 3. I don't like.
Already making a judgment.
I don't like Back to the Future 3.
Oh, I like it. That's my phone.
I like the first one, and I don't mind the second one, but the third one is just.
Again, I don't know if it's one of those things where it's more of a, because like Back to the Future, Ghostbusters. I mean, as we all know, I'm a 46-year-old trapped in a 20-year-old's body. But it's the films that I kind of grew up on. Weirdly enough, I mean, I was born in '96. You know, it sounds like the way I talk about it. It sounds like I was born like in like the late '70s, early '80s, or whatever. But my dad was very like nostalgic like that about '80s stuff. So I also grew up on like Ghostbusters, Back to the Future. Mm-hmm. So like, even if you asked me, I hold the 3 Back to the Future films in high esteem. Like I enjoy them all.
Yeah,
but. It's one of those things where it's not just nostalgia. Like, I can rewatch them and not think, like, oh, this hasn't aged well. Like, they're just so ingrained in me that I'm in love with them all.
Yeah. That's fair enough.
One of those things. I'm a lot older than I should be.
Speaking of Ghostbusters,
oh boy,
I'm on it with the segues today, man. Like, I'm usually terrible at this. Sony says a sequel will happen. You haven't even seen it.
I haven't even seen it, and that tells you everything you need to know. I don't want to see it.
So if anyone listened to our podcast last week, you'll know that pretty much Lewys hated it.
Yeah.
Brandon wasn't a fan of it, and me and Iwan didn't mind it.
Yeah, like that's what I've heard from. Like, I haven't seen it myself because I mean, I don't want to bore the audience, but I, again, 80s kid, love Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
The main things I've heard is it ranges from terrible, life-ruining, to extremely mediocre.
Yeah.
I've not heard anything credible, like any credible reviews that say it's anything more than like a 6 out of 10.
Yeah. It really is. It's a 6 out of 10. Like, it's the best score for the film because it's incredibly average.
Yeah, like,
and I hate when people like, this is below a 7, it's absolute garbage.
Yeah, like I'd say anything down to about a 4 out of 10
is
still good. Like, everything over 50%. 50%'s a passing
That's
grade.
the thing. Like 50% should be the average.
Yeah.
Because that is literally like the average, but everyone's like, no, if it's below 70%, it's terrible.
It's how people. It's like if it's below 70%, that means it's below like 70% is like the good, isn't it? So like the B grade or whatever, it's the good. Below 70%, people don't want to waste their time.
Yeah, I think that's the thing.
But anything below 5 out of 10, 50% or whatever, I mean, I'm not huge on like rating systems and stuff like that. I usually like to make my own mind up about stuff. But like anything below like a 5 out of 10 is what's like not worth watching for me. Like 5 out of 10, 6 out of 10 is still like, I mean, it's okay.
Yeah. Speaking of rating systems, Suicide Squad has been confirmed to be a 15 in the UK.
Is interesting.
I was under the impression it was going to be a 12A.
Because it started off very dark, right? The opening kind of promotional materials for it were pretty dark. And like with the direction Batman vs Superman took, it was like, hey, it's pretty dark. And they seem to have really wound that back with like the recent ad campaigns. It's gone very light-hearted. Mm-hmm. And so for it to come out as a 15 is bizarre.
Yeah, did you see the latest trailer? Like the final one? Like that was all happy and joyous.
Yeah, like it was all like funny, like, hey, look at these characters are quirky, like all funny. For it to come out as a 15 I was not expecting that. I was expecting 12A.
Yeah, I was fully expecting 12A, mainly because it's a PG-13 in America, which 90% of the time is equivalent to a 12 in the UK, other than, say, actually, no. I think 90% of the time, because like even Deadpool was an R in America, and it's a 15 over here. So the rating system is just so weird.
Rating is like, I don't know. It's, I don't agree with rating systems a lot. Like I think 12A is a terrible idea. Yeah, because I hate the idea that like a 7-year-old can go and see a 12A film, because I think a lot of companies abuse it.
Yeah.
Look at DC, like Batman vs Superman had no business being a 12A.
It definitely should not have been a 12A. Because X-Men Apocalypse, I've said in our radio show before now, that film's horrific if you're below 12. Like, there's just people getting like just crushed into a ball.
Yeah.
With like telekinetic powers, you just see his bones crunch and stuff. It's horrible.
And like I said, I got dragged to see the fourth Twilight film a few years back, Breaking Dawn Part 1, I think. There's a C-section in that.
Yep.
Like he's like full on like, and it's not even like a nice C-section.
Yeah,
that came out wrong. But like,
a nice
it's not a pleasant C-section that I would sit through. No, but it's like they like no holds barred. He's like, they show him like they don't show like actual like gore of him, like, but like they imply that he's like ripping her open with his hands and he comes up covered in blood.
Yeah,
there was like 8-year-old kids screaming at the bottom of the cinema. I was like a 16-year-old kid screaming at the back of the cinema.
In part 5 of that, there's at least like 20 decapitations.
Yeah.
It's a weird system.
If you ask me, I think, I don't know, maybe they should do something like still have like kind of age rating thing, but more clearly take like, you know, like how Peggy do it, and I would normally never give anything to Peggy because their ratings are terrible, but take like, you know, there's like strong language, violence, whatever, and put that instead of like an age rating. So say like, hey, there's strong language, violence, dark themes in this rated 12 film. So you probably shouldn't take your 8-year-old kid to watch it.
Yeah.
But like, there's no age rating for mature themes.
No.
Kind of like that. It's like you could have like a super dark film like Batman vs Superman with, you know, a little bit of implied violence. Like there's not really any blood. There's not really any bad language. So that passes it as a 12. But that film's so dark. I mean, spoilers, I guess, if you haven't seen it, but it's like it's a 4-month-old terrible movie, so don't care. But like, there's a point where an entire courthouse of like 300 people blows up in a fiery inferno.
Yeah.
And like, how is an 8-year-old kid watching, like, he's like, hey, it's Batman, I love Batman. Like, coming to watch this, watching a dude in a wheelchair blow up. It's like, why? How is this a 12A?
It's a bizarre thing.
Yeah, I don't agree with rating systems a lot. They're kind of stupid.
Yeah, it's just how it is. So.
Yeah, it is. It's just the system, man.
Now, we were talking Ghostbusters, and I want to get back to that because as much as I wasn't a huge fan of the film, Leslie Jones is getting some shit on Twitter, and it's horrible.
I saw that. It's all like racist kind of stuff, isn't it? It's like
just like pictures of people comparing it to apes.
Yeah, and it's like I'm not really a casual racist kind of guy. Like I don't really find casual racism funny.
No, I hate it.
Like it's but like when you're straight up going and like insulting her because of like the way she was born, it's like, okay, fine. I don't like the fact that they remastered Ghostbusters. Do I hate women? No. Do I hate Leslie Jones for being born a certain way? No.
Yeah,
it's so stupid and petty and just vile. Like,
it's proper horrible, some of the stuff that they've been doing.
Yeah.
Leslie Jones like posted a load of stuff onto Twitter, basically just of her saying she's had enough, and it's fair enough. It's absolutely disgusting what people have been saying, and if any of you have posted to her, fuck off. I don't want you listening.
Genuinely, if any of you have posted to her, you know, anything like that, I will legit fight you.
We have very few fans,
and
I highly doubt that any of them have said anything.
I hope they haven't.
This is just a general message to anyone who did.
Yeah,
you're horrible.
it's just genuinely awful. It's like, I don't know. It's just like, I mean, it'd be terrible regardless. It'd be terrible if it was in a joke format, terrible if it was a casual format. But the fact that it's specifically being used to like offend her, to hurt her, is just it's awful.
Yeah, I'm not being funny. Sure, you didn't like the film. This got nothing to do with the film,
right? Like, there's that. I mean, Paul Feig kind of made it his own fault when he's like, you don't like Ghostbusters because you hate women. It's like, I absolutely do not hate women. I just don't like the film. Yeah. You could have cast it with dudes and I would hate it. And it's, like I always say, have I said it like 5 weeks running now on the radio show, that I always hate saying that I'm not interested in the new Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
Because like I want to see more female comics. I want to see more, you know, comics of varying ethnicity, varying race or whatever. And it's just such a shame that I don't have any interest in the film, because I want to see more of that stuff upcoming. Disliking the film is nothing to do with the fact it's cast women.
No.
Disliking the film is nothing to do with the fact that they've cast people of a different ethnicity. And if that is your problem, just fuck off. I think you worded it best. It just makes me angry.
Yeah, it's
sucks. You know what else sucks? Ghostbusters.
I thought you were going to segue into something.
I would segue, but I can't see the news, so I was hoping you'd segue.
Well, I can't really. There's nothing really much else going on, I guess.
You'd be surprised. You'd think there'd be a lot more going on because of the time of year it is. If this is normally like the Hollywood big time, but everyone kind of rushed to get their films out early.
Yeah,
this year, there was a lot of April, May releases kind of thing. There's a couple of weird February releases.
Yeah, the whole seasons of when films are released now is just getting messed about, and it's really weird.
I think Star Wars is kind of doing as they please.
Yeah,
because Star Wars are big.
Yeah,
they can do what they like.
I think what they realized is there was a gap in the market.
Yeah.
And they can jump into it. And I have a feeling now that a lot of other things are going to do that.
Yeah.
So, whenever a gap in the market pops up now, people are just going to try and fill them. And especially with having God knows how many massive, parts of franchises.
Yeah.
Marvel are releasing 2 films a year. There's Star Wars coming out. You've got the Star Trek films that are probably going to get pumped out even more.
Yeah.
Transformers is becoming an annual thing next year. There's just so much going on. Sony's trying to develop their big franchises and make it into a expanded universe. And there's so much coming out that it's going to basically be a massive film each month eventually, because they can't keep doing it as they're doing it and just putting everything in summer, because it's not good for anyone.
No, because summer is looking really barren this year because everyone's just kind of not decided on what to do.
Yeah.
So some people are we should put it out early, or we should put it out late.
Yeah.
We should put it out winter, or put it out really early to just try and beat the market. So you've got Batman vs Superman. 2 months later, you've got Civil War, and you've got Warcraft, and you've got Ghostbusters, and you've got all those big films kind of within the first 6 months. But there's not really anything in the summer free period now. The summer holidays have officially started for everyone now, right?
Yeah.
And there's just kind of nothing for kids.
There's not much.
Ice Age 5, which comes out this week. If you're a parent, don't take your kid to see it because it looks terrible, and your kid won't forgive you, I can guarantee. Being a kid who was dragged to some bad kids films, I think your kid will hold it against you.
I don't remember being dragged to bad kids films because my parents have decent taste in films.
My parents have, I love them, but they have very differing opinions in films. In that I like most of my dad's films, I don't like my mum's films.
Yeah, my mum likes Underworld and all that.
Oh yeah.
And I like that because I watched all them with her when I was a bit younger, and it's sort of a guilty pleasure, but that's the type of stuff she likes.
My guilty pleasure is my mum was always into rom-coms, so Hitch, when it came out, I forced her to get it on DVD so I could watch Hitch and just stuff like that. That's kind of what I grew up with.
Yeah.
Whereas my dad, my dad's a lot of more old films, so my dad goes to see films less and is more about just hey, I've got this on DVD, you should watch it.
Yeah,
which I still do.
My dad likes good films, fortunately.
Yeah.
He showed me Alien.
You're saying Underworld isn't good?
Look, right, I'm not saying it's bad. I'm saying
it's fantastic.
I'm saying that it's absolutely appalling, but I love it anyway.
It's like a low-rent Blade, isn't it?
It's definitely a low-rent Blade. It's basically, I think the first Underworld is what I hoped Blade Trinity would be.
Yeah. Well, I mean, who was it? Is it Kate? Which Kate is it? Kate Beckinsale?
Or something.
I mean, let's just say she never went to prison for tax evasion, so I think we've seen the best vampire trilogy out there.
Yeah.
But it's like a quadrilogy now, though, isn't it? Didn't they do like a fourth Underworld or something?
They did the fourth one because they did like a prequel for the third one, and now they're bringing out another one in like a year or two.
Yeah, which is, I mean, at least Blade knew when to stop with with Trinity.
Yeah.
Although that might be because Wesley Snipes' schedule suddenly got very full.
Yeah.
With prison.
Being in prison.
Yeah.
I've just read something that I'm not happy about.
Oh dear.
Indiana Jones may be the next movie universe treatment.
No.
How are you going to make that into a universe?
All I can think is that they have like if they do make a next film, it opens with Indiana Jones himself being like buried in the graveyard.
No, but then we'll get his fucking son.
Yeah. Recast, not as Shia LaBeouf anymore, please. Shia LaBeouf's too nuts to play.
Shia LaBeouf's insane.
To play young and what was his son called? It was like Roger or something.
No, it began with an S.
I don't know.
Was it like Spud or something?
I've tried to remove that film from my brain very much. Unfortunately, I can only forget most of it and not Shia LaBeouf on a vine or alien spaceship under a temple.
Oh, it's bad.
God, I try and forget as much of that film as I can, but it doesn't need to be done.
No, why? What? Like, I kind of get it with Star Wars, right? Yeah. It's a massive universe. There's different stuff going on in each part of the galaxy, and it's called Star Wars. It's not called Luke Skywalker.
Yeah, right.
Indiana Jones is called Indiana Jones,
and that's the problem. Is I don't know if there's this kind of idea going on at the moment that let's fix everything that George Lucas messed up.
Yeah.
And that can work with Star Wars because George Lucas did go back and completely destroy like that timeline of Anakin Skywalker. Whatever. Mm-hmm. Let's just call it quits and let's just move into the future because people only care about 4, 5, and 6 anyway.
Yeah.
Indiana Jones, the trouble is that there is not like you don't have a timeline. Mm-hmm. Like 4 wasn't about like a young Indiana Jones getting rat tails and being really angry at everything.
Yeah.
4 was just another Indiana Jones film, and it's like, how much can you do without straying straight into like Wolfenstein? You know, the game series is like another like World War II Nazis stuff. Like, how much of Indiana Jones can you do before it just becomes Wolfenstein? Like, he's already had 3 Nazi adventures. And it's the thing, right? Isn't it where, you know, like Raiders of the Lost Ark takes place over a considerable kind of time span. You got to imagine it's got to be like over a couple months at least.
Oh yeah, definitely.
World War II only lasted like 6 years. So how many films can you fit in when you got to account for the fact that he has like one adventure that takes up like 6 months of his time or whatever? I mean, Temple of Doom, fair enough, that took place like over 2 days or whatever.
Yeah.
But, like, how many adventures can you squeeze in? And I mean, let's be fair, there's only 2 good Indiana Jones films really, because Temple of Doom was just bizarre.
Oh, you don't like Temple of Doom?
It's not that I don't like Temple of Doom.
Oh,
it's the Temple of Doom is just a solid like 6 out of 10 on my radar.
Oh God, you're wrong. You're 100% wrong. Temple of Doom is the best Indiana Jones film.
Temple of Doom, not Raiders of the Lost Ark.
I say it right now. Temple of Doom is the best Indiana Jones film.
Raiders of the Lost Ark is the best.
Why did I bring you on this show?
See, my problem with Temple of Doom is, hey, you were just shouting at the people talking to Leslie Jones, and you agree with Short Round? I think you're a casual racist, Dan.
It's the 80s. You can do whatever you want.
Ghostbusters was the 80s.
Yeah, they were racist. They didn't have.
They were.
They didn't let. I don't even remember the guy's name.
I can't actually either.
He did nothing in that film.
Hey, he told them to be called Ghostbusters or whatever. He had the car, didn't he? Ecto-1, didn't he?
All right.
Yeah.
Look,
Temple of Doom, it's not that it's a bad film. You know me, there's a lot of films that I would not say are bad. Like, I don't like calling a film bad.
Yeah.
You know, it's one of those things, like, it's like I don't like calling music bad. There's a lot of things I don't like calling bad, because you got, you know, like, I got to appreciate the fact that there's, like, effort and talent. Like, if anything, like, there are very few. Batman vs Superman is, like, the first film in a long time that I've really just hated with every fibre of my being. But that's because that's soulless, and it's Zack Snyder, and I don't care about him. And I don't care about David Goyer.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, Temple of Doom, it's not bad. I just think it's the weakest of the three.
Yeah.
I'd say like Raiders of the Lost Ark is like right up there, like near like brilliant film. Like I love Raiders of the Lost Ark, and I really like Last Crusade. Last Crusade's like just a bit below Raiders for me.
Yeah.
And then Temple of Doom's just like a couple steps down, because it's like Raiders and Last Crusade have like that more of like an exploration atmosphere to it. It's like, we're going where no one's gone before. We got to beat the Nazis to it. Mm-hmm. And Temple of Doom is more to me like, whoa, crazy cultists, dude. Short round, say something. Like, I like it, but it doesn't have the same atmosphere as the other two for me. It doesn't have the same like feeling of adventure for me.
Yeah.
Okay. I still like it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I thought we'd have more Star Wars news, to be perfectly honest,
from
as Star Wars Celebration happened over the weekend. There wasn't a lot. Rogue One got a new poster, which you sent me.
Yeah. I
like that poster.
It's the most bizarre poster ever, because Rogue One has been set up, right, as gritty, dark, like really kind of serious. One of the darkest Star Wars films. Mm-hmm. Poster's just like a tropical island. And my favorite part of the poster is I like genuinely do. I love the Death Star in the background.
Yeah, that's great.
It's a very good intro, but the tropical island looks very generic tropical island.
Yeah. And
my favorite is just the way it's framed. On the far right of the poster, if you look, there's a stormtrooper like pointing his gun, and from like the way it's angled and stuff, he looks like he's got a tiny 3-foot tall son next to him. Like he's got his 3-foot tall stormtrooper son like there with him. You actually have to put up a picture of the poster and like circle around the two I'm talking about.
Oh, I've never had to do editing in the two other ones of this that we've done, and now I have to do editing.
High maintenance.
Thanks to you.
You can always just cut this out.
Yeah,
either
right.
I mean, it's editing either way. I'm high maintenance. I'm sorry, but like it's great. But it's just such a weird poster considering how much they're pushing this as dark and gritty, and they're like, hey, tropical island.
Yeah, it's a strange poster, but I love it.
Yeah,
the Death Star does look amazing in it.
But there's definitely something lacking about the Star Wars Celebration. Like, there's no holiday special too. There's no more news about anything.
There was a lot of stuff with Rebels. I don't suppose you watched that, did you?
I don't watch it, no.
Did you see the trailer?
I did not.
The trailer looked really good, right? Darth Maul's back.
Spider legs.
No, he doesn't have a spider legs. He has that for like 2 episodes in the Clone Wars. Maul's back, which I'm happy about, because like it was unclear whether he was coming back at the end of season 2 of Rebels. Ezra's all grown up and stuff. He looks a lot better, and he's like he's got a green lightsaber now, and it's a proper hilt rather than a shitey little
stupid blaster thing, didn't he?
And now he's still doing flips and shit. And it's really cool.
Yeah.
It just generally looks really good. I'm really excited for season 3, because season 2 had like 3 amazing episodes at the end, but before that, it's a lot of filler.
Yeah. It's an interesting direction that like Star Wars seems to be pushing for.
Mm-hmm.
In that it's going back, because the prequel trilogy were very not kid-friendly. Phantom Menace, I guess, was kind of kid-friendly. You know, you could feasibly take a kid to see that. You know, it wasn't too dark or whatever. But episode 2 and episode 3, they were dark. I mean, Padme dies in childbirth at the end of 3. It's like, what kind of kid wants to see that? And like, well, there's... there may be like kind of dark things in the original 3. Like, I mean, Luke gets his hand cut off, but there's nothing dark. It's like that blend of like a little bit dark, a little bit kid friendly, and it looks like they're pushing back towards that, like from the dark. Like, they want their kid audience, but they want to be like, hey, we also know adults like this as well.
Yeah.
So it seems to be like an interesting thing they're going for.
Yeah.
And it gives some kind of like some more interesting complexity for kids to take in, because like that's what I love most about Force Awakens, was how like the 2 protagonists it was a woman and a black man, and there's kids who would like my brothers went to see it, and they like like how you can imagine like an older person would be like, oh hey, it's not like it's not Mark Hamill, it's not Hayden Christensen, it's not a white dude in the lead role. That's a bit unconventional, and kids are just like, I like the main characters. Like, it just doesn't they don't notice it at all, you know, which it's a nice direction, and I'm glad they're pushing that way.
Yeah.
Very, very good. Very progressive.
Yeah.
Which is nice.
Heading back to Rogue One, right? I completely forgot about this. Did you see the panel with I can't remember the name of the guy now. It's the guy who's like playing the blind guy.
Oh, yeah, I know what you mean.
Did you hear the spoiler that came out of it?
No.
I kind of don't want to tell you because it's a massive spoiler, right?
Right.
And basically, someone accidentally revealed it.
Oh.
I'm gonna say it. I'm very sorry. If
okay.
You don't care.
Stop listening now. If you don't want to be spoiled,
Well, just mute it for like two minutes.
Fine. Right. Yeah. Good.
So yeah, the blind character.
Right.
he was on a panel with like some of the other characters in it.
Right.
And one of the other characters who's like he's in a lot of martial arts films and stuff in Asian films, like all the martial arts,
Eastern martial arts films.
Yeah. And this guy who's not the blind one, it's this other guy, and he's like he's obviously not aware of the spoiler etiquette.
Yeah.
Of like US films and like big Hollywood films. And he's basically like, well, when he dies, I do something that affects the film, and I don't want to say too much.
Oh no! So it's just like it's all just like, oh, this guy dies.
Yeah.
Whoops.
So we know that the Asian guy that is blind, he dies.
I mean, to be fair, it was never going to be. I don't understand me, but these characters are never super important.
Yeah, I mean, there's only so much you can do with them because it's a lead up to
episode 4 to 6 happen.
Yeah, and they're not seen throughout it, and they're not seen in episode 7 or anything either. So there's very little places they can go. They either
beyond maybe like callbacks in episode 8 to like, but even then, I suppose they don't want to do that because obviously they've got to account for the fact there's going to be an audience who just aren't going to see Rogue One.
Yeah,
like are kids really going to be interested in Rogue One? Because like I can imagine a couple kids are, but I think Rogue One's big selling point is the fact that it's like, oh hey, remember that thing that gets mentioned at the start of episode 4? Well, here's the film about it. Which obviously, you know, as an appreciator of the Star Wars, well, I want to say trilogy and 7 because let's not talk about the others. But I am interested when I heard that, you know, when they were like, oh, you know, that spy group who were mentioned in episode 4, they're getting a film. I was like, oh, that's great. That's really awesome.
Yeah.
So they can't be too heavy-handed with like they can't just expect the audience to sit there and have like another character from Rogue One walk in like 40 years older and just take it. So I can't imagine. I imagine this is more like its own isolated little thing.
Yeah.
Because the rest of the series happens.
Yeah, definitely.
So it's not massive, but yeah, the fact that he kind of just dropped that in a panel, film's not even due out for another couple months. He just dropped in a panel.
So his name is, I don't even want to say it because I'm going to fuck up this name. Zhang Wen.
Right.
And the actor that's playing the blind guy is called Donnie Yen.
Yeah.
So yeah, Donnie Yen's dead in this film.
No.
He's gonna die. So yeah, it's just so funny. I find it so funny.
Just completely accidental, not even like malicious. Just like, oh yeah.
And it's the fact that he says, well, not to give too much away, but when he dies,
he dies.
It's so funny. And you know what? If this was like a leak from someone that had been like, scripts leaked, I'd be pissed off.
I would be angry, but
the actor said it,
it's
just funny
to be angry at.
It's so funny.
Speaking of blind people, though, pretty soon the new film from the creators of Evil Dead's coming out, isn't it? Don't Breathe, I think, is it called?
I don't have a clue.
Have you not heard about
this? No.
It looks very interesting.
Yeah.
The film's called Don't Breathe. It's from the creators of the original Evil Dead film.
Right.
it's about a girl who, like, she's in a small town, she wants to get out.
Yeah.
And so this girl, her boyfriend, and the friend who looks like he wants to date the girl, they're marking at this place they want to rob to get money to leave. Place is owned, like, by a blind guy.
Right.
So they go in to rob it. The blind guy is actually, like, a trained killer.
Right.
And so, like, they're stood there, and the boyfriend, like, makes a noise, and the blind guy, like, walks in, and he's got a gun, and he just, like, blows the boyfriend away. And he starts dragging the body back when, like, the girl steps on a floorboard. And it's got almost like a Blair Witch kind of feel, because he's hunting them in the dark.
Yeah.
And he's like a trained girl, like, he goes and, like, boards up all the windows, he, like, nails and chains all the doors shut, and he's, like, hunting this girl and the boy.
Yeah.
And there's one very interesting shot they show where he turns the power off, and the lights are actually off in, like, the studio where they're filming, and they're on, like, night vision cameras, and you can just see, like, the huge dilated pupils of the woman as she's, like, walking around, like, scanning for stuff, and, like, she's got those, like, creepy, like, pupils that are huge. It looks very interesting. It looks very creepy. That's due out, I think, in a couple of weeks' time, so that might be one we have to go see.
Yeah, that's cool.
Because it looks more unique than anything I've seen in a while.
That sounds
I've seen quite a few interesting trailers for films. I saw the trailer the other day for the new Daniel Radcliffe film, not Swiss Army Man.
Right.
There's a new one he's doing, the neo-Nazi one.
Yeah, we talked about that.
We mentioned that, I think, on the radio.
Yeah.
And that one looks very interesting as well.
Yeah, I think we may have brought this up on the podcast last week, but I haven't really liked Daniel Radcliffe in anything.
Yeah.
Other than, like, the Harry Potter films, and he's not great in them.
I like him in that middle section, like Azkaban to Half-Blood Prince.
Yeah.
He's good. Actually, I do like him in the last two. Obviously, as a kid actor, I just don't like kid actors in general.
No, all of them in Harry Potter are just not great.
Yeah.
Like in the first two.
But I think he's alright in that. But yeah, I kind of liked Woman in Black, which is strange because I normally don't like horror films like that. I kind of appreciated that, but I didn't bother watching Horns. That didn't seem like the kind of thing that appealed to me.
I watched Horns and I regretted it.
Yeah.
Like, it's just not great.
It didn't seem like the thing that appealed to me.
No.
And, like, Swiss Army Man is, again, just doesn't seem like the kind of thing I'd be into.
I'm quite looking forward to it, but I'm not 100% sure how it's going to turn out.
But this, I can't remember the name of it for now. It begins with an I.
I forget the name.
But whatever it's called, I actually think this one genuinely looks very interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know, again, if it's just because it's obviously so close to reality. You know, it's about, like, neo-Nazis. It's based on a true story.
Yeah.
But it looks very interesting. So I'm interested to see that. I'm interested to see Don't Breathe. And I saw a trailer for another film. I can't even remember what it was now. But I remember seeing the trailer the other day and thinking, oh, wow, I want to see that as well.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of interesting... I mean, I know we were just saying there's nothing coming out. There's actually quite a lot coming out in terms of small films.
Yeah.
Because these films aren't getting, like, massive TV coverage. A lot of these I'm seeing on, like, my Facebook newsfeed or whatever. There's a lot of interesting small films coming out, but I can guarantee none of them will be in the cinema.
That's the Cineworld, the one that we go to, right? The one that me and my mates always go to. They just don't show anything that's not, like, either a massive blockbuster or a kid's film for 5-year-olds. Because bloody
Green Room,
right? This is what really annoys me the most about it. They show the trailers for the films I want to see, and they don't show the films. They showed the trailers for Green Room about a month prior to the film coming out, and it was before every film I saw. They've shown the trailer for Neon Demon before every film I've seen. They're not releasing that there. They showed the trailers for High Rise and all these these indie films that look like really interesting. I want to see. The only films, like indie films, they've shown there are the ones that get Oscars, like Oscar nominated.
Yeah.
They showed Room, Revenant, like they're good films, but I want to see something. I want to see something different.
It's annoying because the trouble with a lot of them is the only one that really comes to mind is Rooster Teeth. Yeah, they made a film, didn't they, a while back?
Yeah, Laser Team.
And the interesting thing they did with that is they partnered up with a website called Tug that allows you to like hire a screening out basically. Yeah. And obviously that was great because that's got screenings in a lot of cinemas that otherwise wouldn't have shown it. Yeah. And if things like like Green Room or Neon Demon or anything would do something like that, that'd be great. Yeah. Because I'm sure you could raffle up 50 people in like the Chester area who'd be interested to see, say, Neon Demon or Don't Breathe or whatever. But Trouble is, they don't.
Yeah.
And, like, you can't just go up to the cinema and be like, can you show this, please? Because they'll be like, no, get lost.
Yeah. I mean,
and it's really annoying.
The cinema that we go to, it has a Facebook page, and I've messaged them a couple of times, just like, are you showing this film? And they're like, no, it's limited release. And I understand that, right?
Yeah.
Limited release is a part of the film industry, and it's just what they have to deal with.
Yeah.
Don't show the fucking trailers before the film.
Right? That's the worst part, is you don't act like you're going to show this and then make it so that we can't see it anywhere.
It's just a pain.
Usually, like, the worst thing about Green Room is I remember looking at screenings, there was like 10 cinemas in the UK that were showing it or something like that. Like, it was something ridiculous. It was like all the biggest cinemas were showing it, and that was it.
I'm going to pick that up on Blu-ray, because I watched it online, and I feel bad that I watched it online.
Yeah, I always do.
Because I was more than willing to pay for that.
Yeah. But when you just can't find it.
Yeah, there was no way I could pay for it, and...
it is. It's really annoying.
Right. We should probably get onto the main block of this episode.
We've just rambled on for however long.
About 40 odd minutes.
40 odd minutes where we've ranted at racist, we've ranted at Cineworld, ranted at Star Wars, ranted at George Lucas a bit, actually, and even ranted at each other. So now let's rant about Star Trek. There's nothing to rant about Star Trek, to be honest. Not Abrams' Star Trek.
Yeah, so Abrams' Star Trek is probably going to be the main thing.
So do you want to open with all the other Star Trek? Do you want to try and condense that down quick? Because, I mean, it'll mostly be me talking. Should we condense that quick to get to Abrams? Just to give a backstory?
I don't know what the first Star Trek film's about.
No one does. So, I was thinking about this morning, and I think it's why Ghostbusters didn't work and Abrams' Star Trek has worked.
Yeah.
Because they're both reboots.
Yep.
They're both reboots that mostly follow the same kind of, like, plot.
Mm-hmm.
The problem with Ghostbusters is, I know there's games, I know there's like books and comic books or whatever. Ghostbusters is 2 films, right?
Yeah.
Ghostbusters is 1 film, technically, really.
Well, yeah, it hasn't really been relevant since the 80s.
Ghostbusters 2, like, not a lot of people took interest of. Ghostbusters 1 film. So it's really noticeable when you reboot that 1 film and completely remove that and get rid of it, right? Star Trek, you've got the original series. You've got the 5 original series films. You've got Next Generation, and you've got the Next Generation films, and you've got Deep Space Nine and Deep Space Nine films. There's so much Star Trek property that's all like official property to watch that you can reboot Star Trek original series and no one will really care. Like, the real losers, like the proper diehard Trekkies, they will probably be angry, but like the mass audience won't care.
But boy, were those diehard Trekkies angry.
Yeah. So, I am an appreciator of old Star Wars.
Old Star Wars?
Old Star Wars? And old Star Trek.
Oh, now you've pissed off the Trekkies.
No, sorry, Trekkies. My mind's on other things. I am an appreciator of old Star Trek.
Even Nemesis?
No, not Nemesis. But, like, I've seen all the original series.
Yeah.
It's cute, it's goofy, you know, there's some great episodes. I mean, everyone knows the fighting episode where Spock reaches maturity and him and Kirk have to, like, fight. You know, everyone knows that. But there's some great episodes. There's one where aliens have abducted a secret spy from Earth, like, ages ago. Yeah. And they send him back to assassinate JFK. Yeah. And, like, there's loads of real cool, goofy ones like that. Films. Oh boy. I haven't actually seen certain Star Trek films. Right. Just because they have such a reputation. I don't want to waste my time. I haven't seen the very first film, because that one's infamous, isn't it? You know, if you've ever seen Bill and Ted 2, you know, they make loads of jokes about it. Wrath of Khan, legitimately great film. Star Trek 2, worth a watch if you haven't seen it. It's a legitimate, really good sci-fi film.
Wrath of Khan is considered like the best Star Trek film.
It is absolutely the best Star Trek film.
It's also considered to be one of the best sci-fi films ever.
Definitely agree.
And yeah, I've never watched it.
It is one of those films, if you have not watched it, you don't even need to watch anything else really to have context for it, because 2, 3, 4 are their own enclosed little story, but 2 on its own, it is also an enclosed little story. It's close to a perfect sci-fi film of that kind of era, that kind of, like, it's not goofy, it's quite a serious one. Fantastic film, Wrath of Khan. Yeah. And then they decided to follow it up with The Search for Spock. So,
sorry. All I know from Wrath of Khan is Shatner's line, Which
Khan. That's great because
I'm probably gonna like edit that in.
Yeah, in the film, that's also great. Try and find the scene, because in the film, he's trying to contact Khan. He's like, Khan, and then as he screams Khan, it like zooms out from the planet they're on, so it just like cuts to space, this like planet, and it's just Khan as it zooms out. It's brilliant. So, I guess kind of a spoiler. Sorry. Do you care?
No.
Spock dies at the end of Wrath of Khan. He sacrifices himself for the good of the ship. Mm-hmm. The Search for Spock, movie 3, is pretty bad.
Right.
It's basically, hey, we still have all the Wrath of Khan sets lying around.
Yeah.
And we don't want to kill Spock off because he's a popular character. So Spock comes back to life, and it's just terrible. They go back to all the sets, but all the same exciting, interesting sets, but nothing interesting or exciting happens. Right. Really boring. Odds are typically terrible, whereas 2s are good for one reason or another. Evens are good for one reason or another. Star Trek 4, I have mentioned numerous times when we're talking. I love Star Trek 4. It's a terrible film, but in the right way. It's super goofy. They have to go back in time to the 1980s, San Francisco, because a probe comes to Earth and is like boiling the oceans because it's trying to find sperm whales or something. So they have to like go back in time and rescue a sperm whale from SeaWorld. It's like Spock dives into a SeaWorld tank to try to like communicate, to do like the mind meld with the sperm whale, but like it's a sperm whale, so he doesn't get anything interesting out of it. It's like there's one bit where they're on the bus and he does like the Vulcan knockout grip on a punk who's listening to a radio really loud. So he just leans over and like death grips him and knocks him out, and like turns his jukebox, and everyone on the bus everyone's like clapping on the bus for him. It's so goofy and funny, but it's funny. Yeah. Journey Home, I think Star Trek 4 is worth a watch if you enjoy goofy like B movies. Mm-hmm. Interesting tidbit about Star Trek 4 though is William Shatner didn't want to come back unless, because Leonard Nimoy directed 4 and I think 3, unless Leonard Nimoy could secure him directing Star Trek 5.
Yeah.
William Shatner directed Star Trek 5. Considered one of the worst movies ever. I have not actually seen Star Trek 5, nor do I know what it's about.
So this one's apparently when they meet God.
Yeah, right? It's supposedly the one where they meet God.
By the way.
Segue.
I forgot. Star Trek, the first one, it came out a few weeks ago, that apparently Kirk was meant to punch Jesus in the face.
What?
Apparently they had something that could like shapeshift. And he shapeshifted into Jesus.
Oh no!
And Kirk was meant to punch him in the face.
Him in the face.
Yeah.
I didn't watch Star Trek 1 because it's like the infamously bad one.
Yeah.
And I didn't watch Star Trek 5 because it's also infamously bad.
Yeah.
But Star Trek 5 was kind of what killed it. Star Trek 4 had terrible, like Wrath of Khan made a lot of money box office, if I remember right, and was very well received. And slowly they got worse. Everyone went to see 3 because they enjoyed 2. Mm-hmm. And then less people went to see 4 because they didn't enjoy 3.
Right.
No one went to see 5 because 4 was just so terribly received. 4 was like a cult classic, you know. Yeah. It's like terribly received, funny to watch on your own.
Yeah.
So 5 was basically what killed off like that kind of. 5 was the end of the original series, basically. Yeah. I think they did a couple others actually, but like I just lose track past 4.
Yeah.
So then they go to Next Generation. Yeah. Next Generation, I think, was the one with Patrick Stewart.
Yeah.
They had some genuinely great movies. I don't know if you've seen them. Have you seen any of the Next Generation movies?
I haven't, no.
First Contact is a very good one.
Right.
First Contact is the one with the Borg, where the Borg are first introduced.
Oh, yeah.
Have you ever seen that gif where Patrick Stewart, like, he's got the rifle and he, like, smashes the glass cabinet with all the trophies? That's what First Contact's from. First Contact is another one that's just like delightfully weird. It has some really cool stuff in it, but they did a bunch of others, and I didn't really watch them because I was an original series and I was Next Generation series kind of kid.
Yeah,
and then they did Deep Space Nine, which was kind of cool. I didn't really watch it. I think Deep Space Nine was the one with John Delancey in it. Mm-hmm. He played Q, and that was very weird. And then there was Voyager. I didn't really watch Voyager because I just didn't really enjoy Voyager. No. But that's leading up to Reboots. Star Trek was, I don't want to say...
Did they not do Generations?
Oh, they did Generations, but I didn't even watch that. I forgot that existed, to be quite honest. It might have been good.
I heard Nemesis is like the worst film.
Yeah, I know very little about it.
So all I know is Tom Hardy's in it, and he looks really funny.
Yeah. But it leads up to the idea that Star Trek was never, sorry Star Trekkies, but Star Trek was never really a thing taken seriously.
No, well, I think this thing, right? People put these franchises on a pedestal.
Yes.
Star Trek, Ghostbusters, and RoboCop, right?
Right, yeah.
All of them have now had reboots.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. All of them were deteriorating in quality as they went along throughout the years. Star Trek, obviously by your explanation just then,
definitely
deteriorated in quality.
Star Trek deteriorated when it was made. It didn't, honestly, as much as I love them, Star Trek didn't start out good. It peaked with Next Generation. I will be honest. Yeah. Next Generation was the perfect, it was well written, it was well produced, because the original series was awful. It was fun and good, but it was terrible. So it was it soaked up a bit. And in my opinion, it deteriorated. But movie-wise especially, really went downhill.
And people got angry at the RoboCop remake.
Yeah.
Everyone remembers the first RoboCop. Apparently, no one remembers the 3 sequels that followed it, the TV series and the cartoon series, that were some of the most awful things I've ever seen.
RoboCop 1, genuinely brilliant, amazing film with some really nuanced political discourse in it. Everyone always remembers the bit, with the robot, when the robot comes in and blows the guy away with gore. There's just bits flying everywhere. RoboCop 2, I wouldn't say was terrible. No. RoboCop 2 was passable as a film. Yeah, it had some good moments, but I agree. Past 2, just awful. Yeah, nothing good came out of it.
Everything's just bad after that. And then Ghostbusters, another one. People just remember the original.
Ghostbusters 1, still genuinely one of my favourite films.
Ghostbusters 2 is terrible.
Ghostbusters 2 is awful.
The TV film, TV series
was
the cartoon
bad.
Series, really bad.
They did a bunch of extra material and stuff with that, just not good.
So reboots in general, I'm okay with.
Yeah.
Especially this first Star Trek reboot.
Yes.
I loved this film. I would have been just going into high school when it came out.
Man, I would have been just leaving high school, I think, when it came out.
I love it. It's such a good film.
I think that's what also helps is the RoboCop reboot is pretty objectively bad. Ghostbusters reboot is pretty objectively just mediocre.
Yeah.
What was the other series? Star Trek reboot is pretty objectively well done.
Yeah.
J.J. Abrahams gets a lot of flack. Good director, I think.
Oh, definitely. And the thing is, he made it. Look, right. J.J. Abrams loves Star Wars.
Yes.
He wanted to make Star Wars.
Yeah.
And ultimately he did, but first he made Star Trek into Star Wars.
Yeah.
And I think that's why I like this film.
What's good about it is Star Trek was its own thing.
Yeah.
Star Trek, each kind of set of it had its own kind of things. Original series was all about just being weird, out there sci-fi, because it's what you could do. And same with the films, it was all weird, out there sci-fi. And then Next Generation was more kind of serious interstellar politics or whatever, and they all had their own thing, which is, again, it helped J.J. Abrams because it allowed him to make his particular Star Trek his own thing.
Yeah.
Because they're more sci-fi action blockbuster kind of types than, and it works. It pays off. Genuinely pays off. I haven't seen Into Darkness myself.
Right.
But I have heard, again, good things. Not as good.
Yeah. A lot of people don't like it quite as much, but we'll get on to that. So the first film, your main character, you get Kirk straight off the bat. I don't like the stuff when he's a kid, right? I don't like
his dad and stuff. Yeah. It's very ham-fisted and
Well,
forced.
no, I don't mind his dad. So his dad's played by Chris Hemsworth, and
for
I love
80 seconds.
I love Chris Hemsworth and everything, just because he's a fine specimen of a man.
He is a handsome man.
But yeah, so that all happens. But then there's this one scene, right? And he's a kid, and he's driving in this stolen car.
Yeah.
And it flies off a cliff. And it's not great.
No.
They get a really annoying kid to play him, and it's sort of an obvious, he's a rebel. You got to be careful around him because he's off the chain. But past that, I think I love this whole film.
Yeah.
It came out at the perfect time for me. It's just a romp from start to finish.
It's very good.
The pacing's brilliant in it.
Yes.
The pacing's just keeps going, one thing to the next, and it doesn't really slow down.
No.
Maybe like a bit in the middle when Kirk's in like the tundra.
But
and by the way, guys, we'll probably be spoiling these because it's quite old now.
It's even
seven,
Into Darkness
7
is
years
like
old.
4 years old, I think, isn't it?
That's old as well. So yeah, it's a legitimately good film, and I think it's sort of rare that a reboot will do that.
I'd say so. It's sort of rare that a reboot can be appreciated, honestly, as much as something original.
I think what's great about this is that it's appreciated almost separately to the original Star Trek films. Like, you'll get a lot of franchises where if they reboot it, then it'll get compared just so much to the original. And this almost felt like a separate thing.
Yeah. That's not always a bad thing that it gets compared to the original.
No.
Because my shining example of this is always Dredd with Carl Urban.
Yeah.
Because that gets compared to the original because the original is a piece of shit. Sylvester Stallone's Dredd is just bad.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it's okay as a corny sci-fi watch, you know. The law, and stuff like that. Robert Snyder falling down the stairs in that bonus scene or whatever.
Oh, God.
Original Judge Dredd was awful. Carl Urban Dredd, I can't get his name right. Carl Urban Dredd, fantastic.
Yeah,
brilliant film.
It's absolutely brilliant.
And it's not like impossible, but as you said, it is quite rare that a reboot will be appreciated if compared. And I think the good thing about Star Trek is that it wasn't quite going for the old audience. Yeah. Which is what a lot of these films do. Like, it's like what Ghostbusters was trying to do, was kind of trying to go for the old audience.
I think what a lot of stuff fails in doing is trying to go for the audience that both loved the film, loved the original, the original series and stuff, and the original film and whatever, but they also try and go for a new audience. Yeah. Whereas Star Trek, J.J. Abrams' Star Trek essentially just tried to go for the new audience. Yeah, exactly. It didn't aim too much at the original.
It knew what its source material was.
Yeah, I think what they did, they made the film as a separate entity. Yeah. And if original fans liked it, then great.
Yeah, that's just like a happy bonus.
Yeah, if they didn't, then...
Because the thing you've got to be trouble is, I'm sorry to say this, but Trekkies are such a caustic fan base of the original series. Because, again, being honest, original series is kind of a piece of shit. I enjoy it, again, goofy, but it's not good. People see it with rose-tinted shades. Yeah. It's not good in that way. It is enjoyable. It is very enjoyable to watch, don't get me wrong. But it's so overacted and poorly made. And like I said, the only, real legit, some of the later TV series were better made, but Wrath of Khan is the single greatest piece of Star Trek original series production, because I don't know, the overacting just isn't there. William Shatner is acting like a normal human. So I think Abrams went the right way, not trying to specifically target the old audience with the new one, because he knew they wouldn't like it. He knew what Trekkies are like. They were never going to like it. They were always going to hate it, and there are people who hate.
What basically all the Trekkies did like, though, was Zachary Quinto as Spock. Yeah. I don't know what it is about Zachary Quinto as Spock, but apparently he's the best thing to come out of this film for the fans of the original series.
Up until Into Darkness. Trekkies had a lot of problems with Spock Into Darkness because he wasn't a completely boring, emotionless human. Yeah, that's not fair. Leonard Nimoy played a very good Spock. Rest in peace, Leonard Nimoy. He played a very good that kind of Spock. Zachary Quinto is a different Spock, I think, is the important thing. Yeah. So when the Trekkies are like, "Oh, but he's on top of the car, screaming and punching," that's highly illogical.
I think what's important to remember about the Star Trek reboot is that they focus a lot more on the fact that he's half human. Yeah. And was he half human in the original series?
He was half human in the original series, but it wasn't touched on as much.
Yeah, it seems to me that they didn't really... It wasn't a focus of the original series if he was half human, because it seems to just... the fans, the proper hardcore fans of the original Star Trek films get angry that he gets angry. Yeah. And to me, it shows the conflict between he should be logical,
cold,
but he can't help.
It's the thing that again, this is built off source material that Spock is half human, and it takes that. In the original series, Spock, I think, I don't know, I can't remember when it's revealed it's half human. It's quite early on, but it's not. I mean, him being half human is shown by the fact that he works with humans. Yeah, and that's it. Like, he doesn't really have any human emotions. I think he has slightly less pointy ears than other Vulcans, and that's it. Like, he's still very much the same. Like, he's very cold, unfeeling. The only time he gets angry, really, is when he's like, you know, again, the classic gladiator duel episode when he's getting like his hormones, because Vulcan teenagers break shit, like just break stuff. There's that great, again, GIF. It's so GIFable, the original series. I've just seen the great GIF where he gets the computer and he just like smashes the computer into nothing. But other than that, he's and he's a cool character. You know, they're very like cold, like logical. It's why he sacrifices himself at the end of Wrath of Khan. He's like, oh, it's logical that I kill myself. Yeah. But this interesting take on a character, because it's not a direct reboot. It's almost like a reimagining, I want to say.
Yeah. Many people hated Kirk, though.
Yes.
I'm not quite sure why. I liked him. Yeah. I do imagine it's a lot different than the original trilogy, because it doesn't seem like the kind of character that would be in the original Star Trek films.
But again, it's because you never see Kirk as like the untrained captain that he is in this. Because in this, you know, he's quite like a young, untrained
and
kind
I think
of.
Throughout this and somewhat in Into Darkness, you see him progress, and it looks like in Star Trek Beyond that he's going to keep progressing, because like they've got this 5-year journey, and I have a feeling by the end of it he's going to be like a much more reformed
by the end of it, I think he's going to be not necessarily the Kirk that we'd recognize, but that kind of character. He's gonna finally like mature up and be his like, I'm the captain now and I know what to do kind of character. Because he is, especially in the first one, he's that kind of like hot-headed.
I guess there's a fight and bar.
Stuff. Which he's kind of like that in the original series, but he's mature, hot-headed. Which is, again, a lot of people, like, you don't really go into their backgrounds in original series. Like, it just opens up just like a regular day on the Enterprise. Whereas this is not just a reboot, but like a character reboot, like going from early years, isn't it? And again, it's what a lot of people, you kind of just don't really, you know, take that. They're like, oh, this isn't the Kirk that I recognize.
So what I thought they did really well with this, right, is they did it in a way that would piss off the least amount of Star Trek fans, as they had Leonard Nimoy come in as Spock to clearly convey that this is a separate timeline. And it's not done in pretty much any other reboot.
No.
So that's why I really like this, because they do deal with it in the best way possible.
They distance themselves in the right way.
So like, he comes in, he explains that the timeline's been altered, and that will alter a lot of stuff in their universe, and that's why it's all different. And it just seems to be the best way to do it.
And you know why it's good and why it doesn't anger people as much? Because I've heard this said about Ghostbusters. Again, I keep going back to Ghostbusters, but I think it's a good comparison of how to succeed rebooting. Ghostbusters is a reboot, right? Isn't it? It's not like like they pretended at first it's like, you know, a carry-on. It's a reboot. That has erased people's childhoods, essentially. The Ghostbusters that I know and love doesn't exist anymore. You know, quote unquote, that as a property. It's now, you know, like Kate McKinnon, Kristen Wiig, you know, whatever. It's fine they did it. The fact that they completely retcon and they're like, Bill Murray was never a Ghostbuster, you know, whatever. Whereas this is like, hey, original series did still happen. This is just a different timeline. Best way to handle it. Because original series is still there. Wrath of Khan happened. Search for Spock happened. But like, it all still happened, right? You can still go back and enjoy and watch it. If I go back and watch Ghostbusters now, I'll think, oh, I like it, but it isn't real anymore. You know? And like, that was a very good way to handle it. To be like, definitely. Hey, Leonard Nimoy is Spock, but Zachary Quinto is Spock. And it's a very classy way to handle it.
Spock's child scene is a bit dumb.
Yeah.
I don't like that. So like he's in this. It essentially looks like a weird ass school.
Yeah, sort of like an academy kind of thing.
Yeah, and he's like these three Vulcans come up to him, and they just go. He's just like he's kneeling down, like I don't know, like packing his bag or some shit.
Just gathering up his school books.
And he's like, I assume you have got new insults for me today, and they just like they throw. They're essentially Vulcan bullies.
Which is very dumb. I want to throw that out there.
Yeah. And they're insulting him in just the most formal way possible. But then he gets angry, right? Which makes sense because he's half human.
He's half human, so he's allowed to get angry.
The other Vulcan kid gets angry and starts fighting back. And I'm like, that doesn't seem quite right.
Yeah. So my big problem with all that is it's stupid for there to be Vulcan bullies.
Yeah.
It's one of the things
exactly.
I really don't like about the film, and I really didn't like when I saw it. It's so stupid for there to be Vulcan bullies, because that's not how Vulcans work. I mean, I know I'm starting to sound nerdy now, but that's not how Vulcans work. I mean, Vulcans can get angry, but they wouldn't in that context.
No.
They wouldn't in that sense, and they wouldn't bully him in that style. I mean, they would exclude him and feel different about him, but they wouldn't be like Brad, I'm dating the head cheerleader, you suck because your ears ain't as pointy as mine. And it's like it's I mean, even they are formal insults, it doesn't work. It's just bizarre.
It just seems strange to me that like they're meant to be completely logical, and like everything they do is meant to serve a purpose. Like
their whole thing is that they will not do something that's illogical.
Yeah,
like they're almost like computer men.
If
they everything they do has to be logical, has to be make sense, has to be the logical step. It's how they work.
And there just seems to be no reason.
Yeah,
it
is not logical to bully Kid Spock. There's no they don't get anything out of it because Vulcans don't feel like pleasure in that kind of like human way. They don't get anything out of it. It's just dumb.
It's weird. Although, like, the plot of the film in general, I'm happy with.
Yeah.
Like, it's not amazing by any means, but it's the best they could have done with a reboot of the Star Trek franchise.
And it's one of those cases where it's a bit more character-driven than plot-driven.
Yeah, definitely.
Like, the plot events kind of happen and you care more about what the characters are doing about it.
I didn't care about the villain.
No.
So it's Nero, who's played by, is it Ethan Banner?
I think.
Something like that.
I'm not sure.
I'll look it up.
Search it up, yeah.
You know.
But it's played by dude.
Yeah, and he's there to serve the plot and not much else. Like, he's there to drive it forwards.
Things happen because he wants them to, basically.
Yeah. So he's not great in it, but that's generally what happens with any origin story.
Yeah.
Like the villain's not the main focus of it.
Cough, cough. Man of Steel.
Don't mention it.
It's I don't know. Reboots that are definitely going to have sequels kind of struggle with their villain setting up. Yeah, it's fine if you've got something like, I keep going back to it again.
Banner.
If you've got Eric Banner, it's fine if you've got something like Star Wars where you have your Darth Vader-esque character. You've got your Kylo Ren, and he's a good character to set up because you don't need to explain all of his motives. You just need to be like, this is a character, let's tease a couple things about him. We'll deal with it in another film.
Yeah.
But when you have like one villain per film, basically, and especially when you're trying to squeeze in an entire reset, basically, of this timeline, it's hard to make a character interesting and make him work and make sense.
Yeah, definitely.
Like, to give him more screen time, you'd have to take away Kirk's screen time, basically.
Yeah, and I think they made the right decision in not doing that. Yeah. Because I think Kirk, his character evolves throughout the film really well, but not to the point where like he's who he was in the original
they're
series.
clearly like he's less of an ass than he was before. But he's got to work on it still.
You know? So it's mainly just him that I don't like in the film. But you know,
they should have either gone for like there's not really a villain. or there's an overarching villain that goes between them. And I couldn't see an overarching villain working, honestly.
No, I mean, it's not like Star Wars where you have this massive iconic villain.
It doesn't even take place in a similar time frame, does it?
No, I mean, the only iconic villain there really is in Star Trek is Khan.
Yeah.
And they couldn't really do that.
But even then, Khan was a one-film villain because there wasn't much character development in Wrath of Khan for the heroes because they were characters you knew. Khan had a lot of, like... What I loved about Wrath of Khan, original Wrath of Khan, right, is that all the characters knew Khan, and we didn't.
Yeah.
So, like, when Kirk... Because Kirk and Khan have, like, a lot of history in...
Yeah, so Khan shows up in, like, one episode, doesn't he, of the original series?
He's mentioned in, like, one episode, I think. I've only seen, like, half the original series. Right. But, he shows up in one episode that I know of, and, you know, there's some tease in there. Yeah. But it's handled really well in Wrath of Khan, the film, because there's a... You know, like, the way they treat it, there's, like, a lot of history with them. And the characters are all really scared of him, and the characters are not happy that he's back, obviously. Yeah. You don't really know him as an audience member, but if you just go and watch Wrath of Khan, the film on its own, you don't know him as an audience member. But the fact that the characters know him and are so, like, intimidated by him that they don't need to explain his motives, really, works great. Yeah. Works really well. Villains can sometimes be a bit flat, or it can be inferred that they're interesting. Like, they spent too much trying to be like, we're building up Kirk, we're also building up Nero. Yeah. Like, we're also building up him, but there's nothing for him to do.
Yeah, it is the weakest part of the film,
and I think it also doesn't help that the fact that obviously it's a reset and we go with Kirk doesn't have any like nemesis like character. There's no history for Kirk to have a character like it's you kind of thing.
So that's that.
It's like the only part really though. It's one of the few parts that I didn't really like. Overall, still great.
The visuals in this film are amazing.
Lens flare.
The lens flare it's all over the place, and it's even worse in Into Darkness.
But joking aside, it's passable, I think.
Yeah, it's passable. J.J. Abrams likes to put lens flare in, and if he likes it, then fine. It does make it look more sci-fi. That's the effect you get out of it. I was watching it the other day, and I finally set up the speakers in my room to work on the telly. And my God, when they go into like the warp speed, that's amazing. You get like a thud when it goes. And it like stretches off a bit first, and then just gone. And it's an amazing effect. I proper love that.
There are some brilliant visuals. I love the visual. I love like the unveiling kind of the Enterprise. Like the first good look you get of it is really well handled. It looks impressive. There's a lot of good visual work in it. There's a lot of good like character work as well. Like in terms of like makeup and costume department and stuff. I like how Zachary Quinto looks as Spock. He gets the look down.
Is that his real hair?
I don't think so, because I mean, who'd go around with that kind of haircut?
Well, if he wants to really get into the role, then
but I mean, as dumb as the haircut looks, I mean, it's how it looked in the original series. They get him down to a T. He looks so close to Leonard Nimoy's Spock. It's scary, really.
Did they, other than the ears, obviously, did they actually like use prosthetics to make him look like?
I don't think so. I think it was mostly just done with makeup.
I think they got lucky that he looks so much like him.
He does have a similar facial structure. And like, a lot of it's just done with like some makeup, kind of gives him like some of the same features and that. He's very good Spock.
Definitely.
He's a handsome man, Zachary Quinto. Very handsome man.
I
like him in American Horror Story.
Oh, thank God! I thought you were going to say Hitman 47.
I didn't bother watching Hitman 47.
Looks so shit.
No, I liked him in American Horror Story when he played like the one of the two gay men. And it looks like, I mean, he looked alright in Heroes, but in American Horror Story, he's got like he's got like a rugged look going on. Very handsome man. He's like quite built. He's got some cool stubble. I'm straight, but he is a damn handsome man.
Sure. All right. Cool. Was J.J. Abrams the best choice for this?
I can't think of anyone else who could have done it, honestly.
No.
I can't think of any big name sci-fi directors that I would have rather seen do it. Like at the time that it came out, big name directors. You know, I can obviously see someone like Rian Johnson doing a good job of it, but Star Trek came out a long time before Rian Johnson was like a thing.
I think now, if they redid this now, I'd quite like Gareth Edwards to do it.
Yes,
but as you say, for the time it came out,
there wasn't a lot of good established sci-fi directors. No. It was in the time when sci-fi was a bit lacking. It was all kind of like everyone was still like just a bit shocked by how badly George Lucas butchered this like the genre. There weren't many sci-fi directors at the time, and I think Abrams handled it very well. I don't know why Abrams always seems to get a lot of stuff, a lot of stick. I can't really think why. Like, no, there are a lot of worse directors out there.
I've like, because this was the first Abrams film I saw. I think Super 8 was like the year after.
Yeah, it's the first one that immediately like comes to mind.
And I loved this, and I've liked Abrams since. Really, I don't think he's done. I can't think of anything he's done that's been bad. Like Super 8 wasn't amazing.
Super 8 wasn't amazing, but I personally think that was more down to writing. Visually, it was beautiful. The shot that always sticks out in my head, obviously, of Super 8 is the train. That whole train sequence is flawless. Super 8's more down to writing, I think. Enjoyable. I haven't seen Into Darkness myself. But I've liked what I've seen of it.
So let's go into Darkness then. Everything that happened before is here again. So you get the brilliant visuals, more character development between Kirk and Spock. And everything that was good about the last one comes back, and it's good again. A lot of people take issue with the villain. So basically, it's Khan.
Reveal.
And Benedict Cumberbatch plays Khan.
And I don't think that's the right casting decision. He doesn't strike me as the right Khan at all. I feel it's such a bizarre choice.
No.
It's because he was kind of like hot at the time.
Well, that's the thing. He was in like everything.
Like Sherlock and Hobbit was way after that, so I'm wrong. But
no, it was around the same time. It was like 2013, wasn't it?
Man, did Hobbit come out like 2013?
I think the first one was 2013.
Oh God, I feel old.
So, a lot of people have problem with this, and my main problem with this, I quite like this film. I like it more than most people do. I think people don't give enough credit to the plot. Like, it's a good plot. You go, it expands on the universe more. So you go and see the what's the name of the race that the big like brown heads and the
that's racist then.
Look, right,
the Klingons.
The Klingons. I might edit that out a bit. I might just
edit out the bit you talking about big brown heads.
The Klingons, right? So you go and see the Klingons. Like, this whole thing gets expanded, and you get more background because like there's a rivalry between the Klingons and the humans and stuff. And
it was that was quite a big thing in especially like Next Generation. Is the Klingons are very like they're an interesting race. I like them. Like the whole like honor system and stuff like that.
So that gets expanded on more, and like the universe as a whole just gets expanded on. It's a great way of doing it. But my only problem with the film as a whole is the Khan reveal. Khan's reveal is disappointing for everybody.
I have seen the Khan reveal, even separate from the film. And obviously knowing who Khan is, having a kind of a thing with Khan. I love Khan as a villain in Wrath of Khan. I was just
well, that's the thing. I wasn't too aware of who Khan was at the time. And it's not good for people who love the original series, and it's not good for people who have no idea about it.
Well, like the thing I've heard is that like for people who've seen the original series, he he basically doesn't do anything that Khan does.
No.
Like,
well,
he's basically not Khan.
Yeah, so he has the line, and he's like in this prison thing, and Kirk's like, "Who are you?" And he's like, "I am Khan." And it's like this proper dramatic reveal. But if you haven't watched the original films, it just means nothing to you.
Yeah.
He's just saying his name. He's literally just saying his name, and it doesn't matter. If you have seen the original films, apparently he's nothing like that.
Nope.
He's a terrible representation of Khan, if he is. And people got really upset about that. So it really doesn't help anybody. He could have been a completely different character.
It would have been better.
I wish he was, because for the longest time before this film came out, Abrams was adamant that it wasn't Khan.
Yeah.
People asked him, and he was like, "It's not Khan."
There's nothing I hate more than that.
Yeah. It's like...
big example is you played Arkham Knight, didn't you?
Yeah.
Can we spoil it? It's like a year old at this point, right?
Yeah.
So the Arkham Knight, Rocksteady, the game company, were adamant for like the 6 months leading up to it.
This is the completely original
new person,
character.
Completely new character. Never seen him before.
It's just Jason Todd.
It's gonna be it's just Jason Todd. It's really obviously Jason Todd.
Yeah.
And they promised it wasn't Jason Todd. It was Jason Todd.
It just annoys me because they're like, basically what they're trying to do is keep it a secret.
Yeah, but like there's nothing. The only thing worse. I mean, it's not even bad that it's an easily guessable character.
No.
Like, I mean,
I'd be fine with it.
Yeah.
All they have to do is just not answer those questions.
When people are like, well, just be like, oh well, you'll find out.
Just be like, I can't say.
Yeah, don't say it's not Khan and then have it be Khan.
Yeah.
The stupidest thing about the Khan reveal, I think, is the obvious attempts to distance themselves from the original audience. Between one and from what I've seen of Into Darkness, it again tries to kind of like distance a bit.
Yeah.
But it's such an obscure reference because not many people know Khan. I mean, everyone knows Khan.
Yeah.
But no one knows Khan the character.
No.
Unless you've seen Star Trek 2. And you're not going to care about the character unless you've seen Star Trek 2.
No.
You will only have seen Star Trek 2, which is like 35, 40 years old now, if you're into Star Trek.
Yeah.
So it's like, why? Because no one who's going to watch the film is going to know who Khan is. I don't know, it's just so bizarre.
It's a weird choice. And as I say, it would have been completely fine if it wasn't Khan.
Yeah.
Like,
new villain. Perfect.
Would have been fine.
It's I don't know, it's one of those things where it's like, we're going to call him Khan because Khan's an important villain, but don't.
No, it's the other part of this film that's not great is I can't remember the woman's name now. The blonde woman with like the bob haircut. There's this one scene, right? And they're in like a jet. Kirk and her are in a jet together or whatever.
Right.
And she changes. And he turns around and she's just in her underwear.
Oh.
And that's the whole scene. That's all it is.
It's like Skyfall level vibes.
It's a bit annoying. But, you know, other than that,
yeah.
Other than those two things, the film's pretty good.
Yeah, it's not a bad film, it's just not as good.
Yeah, they reverse the Spock and Kirk at the end of it. So Kirk goes into the like radiation chamber or whatever, and he's the one that dies. And then Spock goes mental.
Yeah.
This is what a lot of people had problems with. As I say, I quite like it because it shows that he has human emotion because he is half human, and like I like the struggle that he has.
Yeah.
And look, right, even if you're only half human, you see your best mate die in front of you, you're gonna get pissed off.
I do get it. It's my only problem with it again is that like he is half human, and so it obviously does make sense. But he is half Vulcan.
Yeah.
And Vulcans like to keep their cool. So like even when he does get like kind of he doesn't often get angry in like original series. But even when he's like feeling angry, he still kind of maintains his cool.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I would have liked to have seen maybe him try and control it a bit more, like have a turmoil with himself. Like he he's, I don't know, maybe like confused as to how he feels about it. Like he is devastated, but like he can't process it because he's only half human.
That I get that.
Yeah.
I kind of like the idea that because he's half human, he's throughout, like, basically all the time.
Yeah.
He's struggling with containing his emotions and stuff. I like the idea that, like, at this point,
it's too much.
It's too much. He just snaps, and he goes and just beats the shit out of Khan.
Yeah.
Like that fight's a bit
naff.
Nothing really happens in it. Like Khan doesn't. It's not like at any point Khan gets the upper hand. Like Spock's just pounding on him.
Yeah.
And it's not really an interesting fight.
Yeah, because that's the trouble, is you can't just it is kind of hard to make a fight interesting in a film.
But the thing is, Khan's like a super soldier. Like, imagine he's like a super soldier in it, like Captain America level strength.
Yeah.
And Spock's just destroying him.
Yeah.
Like, it's ridiculous.
It is tricky to make fights in films, because too often you see it fall into the trope of like one person trope you fall into the trope. No, you see too often fall into the trope of it like one person being way better, or what Batman vs Superman did, which I despised. It was the worst 10 minutes of my life. Is like, oh look, he's got the upper hand.
Yeah.
Oh look, he's got the upper hand, and like that's another terrible way to shoot a fight.
Yeah. I really like. What was I watching the other day? It might have been like one of the Jason Bourne films. Like the
Jason Bourne films handle fights very well.
Because like you can tell he's winning throughout a fight, but he's getting like really beat up.
It should go, right? It's like you don't have the dominant upper hand.
Yeah.
You're trading blows, and it's just that you're not as weak as the other dude is, so you can take more punches.
Yeah.
And like that's a great way to shoot a fight. The Bourne trilogy, I haven't seen the new ones, but the Bourne trilogy, great way to shoot action scenes. Mm-hmm. Like that's the benchmark, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do get where the complaints come from Into Darkness, but there's too much in like the fan base of old fans.
Yeah.
There's too much in the line of like, oh, this isn't Spock, and you're like, well, you're right, technically it's not Spock.
Yeah.
Like, you know.
Yeah. So like, as you were saying earlier, though, Into Darkness, it's weird because the first film, like the first Abrams film, it seemed like it tried to distance itself as much as possible.
It wanted to get away. It wanted to make sure it was like, this isn't original series.
Yeah, and it did that really well.
Yeah.
But Into Darkness, it has too many callbacks.
Into Darkness is Wrath of Khan.
Yeah, it is. And it's weird that they do that.
Yeah.
Like, because... And it looks like Beyond's trying to steer away from it as well.
Which will be fantastic, because we do not want the Search for Spock reboot.
And it's that'd be great to see.
It would not.
I'd quite like a Star Trek 4 reboot.
Go back to 2015.
Yeah, get some sperm whales.
Looking for sperm whales. Oh man, I would like to see that, but Abrams is too serious a director for that kind of thing. Like, I don't think Abrams can handle that.
He's not directing Beyond.
Is he not?
No.
Oh, who's directing Beyond?
I don't know, but he's just producing it.
Oh, well, sorry, audience, you figured out that I never pay attention to things.
So yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say about Into Darkness. I like it as a film.
Yeah. I hear people being too negative about it.
Yeah, again, it looks brilliant. Like
visually,
it all looks brilliant. The pacing is just as good. In fact, the first 20 minutes of this film is just spectacular.
Yeah,
there's like a big chase sequence, and everything just leads into the next thing, and it's brilliant. There's like, they jump off a cliff, and the Enterprise catches them.
Yeah.
It's mad, but it's so good. And then it does sort of it goes into weird territory with Khan.
Yeah. Some writing issues.
Yeah, but like, again, the pacing's just it's a brilliant, it's a good film with brilliant elements.
Yeah.
But also not so good elements.
Yeah. And it is, like I said, it's a problem that a lot of reboots have, where they don't know where they stand.
Yeah. Which, again, it's weird because the first one seemed like it knew where it stood.
Yeah. Ghostbusters didn't know where it's... Well, the Ghostbusters know where it stands. Unfortunately, it stands, like, stood on top of the grave of the original Ghostbusters. Whereas first Star Trek or Dread know where they stand. They stand completely separate from other material. The characters have the same names. That's it.
Yeah.
Like... And then Into Darkness is, again, it's just in that problem, in that in-between phase. Like, it's not replacing Wrath of Khan, but it's not Wrath of Khan.
Yeah. So
it's just, I don't know, it's just in a weird place. But Beyond, like you said, Beyond looks interesting.
Definitely.
It looks unique. It has its own kind of thing.
Yeah. So that'll about do it, guys. We've just hit the hour and a half mark. So I think we'll wrap it off there.
Yeah.
Tune in next week, as Dan will be back.
I will return with booze.
And we'll be talking about Star Trek Beyond. Star Trek 2 weeks in a row. Bloody mental.
Call it the Trekkie Show.
I'm not calling it the Trekkie Show.
Trekcast.
Oh, I'll get so many nerds.
Well, I mean, it'll boost up the audience numbers, won't it?
But nerds.
You've got to change the podcast name every week.
No.
Like, let's talk Star Trek.
That's more effort for me, though.
But it's funny.
Don't think it is.
I think it is.
Right, thanks for listening, guys. If you're listening to this on iTunes or SoundCloud, go over to YouTube, because we may do bonus content over there, even though we've done nothing so far, other than upload these podcasts.
Hey, I'll make some bonus content.
Well, what I wanted to do, right, I wanted to do a review of the Neon Demon, and bloody can't go and see that, can I? It's not online either.
Well,
I'm going to have to wait till it comes out on Blu-ray, and then no one's going to care.
Well, you can do a really, really late review. It's like, hey, you thinking of picking up Neon Demon on DVD?
I'm going to do a review before I see it.
It looks cool. That's what we should have done. Like, scrap this podcast. Let's do a review on the Star Trek Beyond trailer.
Let's not, because that's going to take up even more of my time. We're already late, because this is meant to be up by 6 o'clock, and it's 4:30 now.
Oh boy. Nah, it's fine.
There's no way I'm getting this edited and recorded by 6, and uploaded by 6.
It's fine, don't worry.
Right, yeah, so go check us out on YouTube, and yeah, we'll see you next week.
You gotta add me up to the lineup. You gotta draw me a picture in now.
You're only here for 2 weeks.
2 weeks?
Yeah.
I thought I'd signed a contract.
Well, maybe we'll have you back on, Dan.
Nice. I'll sit in the corner.
Right, thanks for listening, guys.